One question and one question only. Is change good? Or at the very least, is it even needed? Change most times, I feel, within the gaming world often means progressive or an evolution. Recently, many games have been disposing their traditional gameplay values, perhaps to adopt more refreshing new ideas. Some common examples I feel that are in this category are Super Mario Odyssey and, of course, Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. These games were praised by the community to hell and back, even after long ago from their release dates. Change is good, right? It seems my hypothesis has been challenged by the most recent iteration within the Pokemon series, Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee. Many longtime fans typically disapprove of many of the changes that these games made, because most of them try to cater to a casual audience. When taking this into question, has Game Freak devolved their gaming philosophy? Let's take a deeper look. In order to understand the success, one must understand failure first. So, to achieve this, let's compare Let's Go to Mario Odyssey and Breath of the Wild. My point today is to show how Pokemon Let's Go fails at change. Look, I understand most of these changes are simply to make the game more approachable to a casual audience, as I mentioned beforehand. The demographic they're specifically trying to aim at is the players who initially played Pokemon Go. I fully understand why a development team may not want to waste their hard work on a game that a decent amount of people may not be able to play because of their lack of experience on the matter. But to completely neuter a game's core mechanics to accomplish this is not the solution to the problem. The answer to this conundrum is to strike a perfect balance between complexity and approachability. Breath of the Wild and Mario Odyssey execute this core balance magnificently. Take notes, ladies and gentlemen, as I go over such instances where this concept occurs. Furthermore, Breath of the Wild, on a technical standpoint, seems rather complicated for new players to adjust to. The concept of such a large open world may intimidate some new players. Instead of throwing Link lost with no rhyme or reason, the game limits the player to the Great Plateau in the very beginning. Here is where you will be able to get accustomed to the game's mechanics and whatnot. In a sort of sense, the Great Plateau is a miniature playground. It gives you a taste of what's to come in the near future. For more experienced players, the gameplay is not halted whatsoever by the story. Also, if the player knows what they're doing, they should be able to complete the Great Plateau with no problems very quickly. Even from the Great Plateau, the player can choose whether to make the adventure easy or not. Now, this is exactly what I was trying to allude to. The balance between complexity and approachability. Even onwards from the Great Plateau, the player can choose whether to make the adventure easy or not depending on where they go. Some ways to make the adventure easy can include taking your time and collecting a lot of heart pieces by completing shrines. Also, mastering the cooking mechanic makes the game a total breeze, but in a good, rewarding manner. Some other ways to make your adventure easier is by taking your time and collecting a lot of heart pieces and stamina. Also, mastering the cooking mechanic makes the game a total breeze, but in a good, rewarding manner. Or perhaps on the other hand, frankly, I never understood why this needed to be the case whatsoever. I mean, looking back on it retrospectively, was Pokemon ever a complicated game series at all? I mean, geez, the series demographic has been stereotypically targeted towards younger children. Did the developers really feel like the original core mechanics were too complicated? An example where this occurs is before every gym, certain requirements are needed to be met before fully entering. Arguably, the most insulting requirement has to be Brock's Gym, which requires the player to have a grass or water type Pokemon. Before I critique, let me explain the other requirements needed for other gyms. And sadly, to be honest, some of these are just plain lazy, like having to level up at least one Pokemon to a high enough level, needing a cute Pokemon in Erica's case, needing to complete story objectives, such as getting cut and acquiring 7 gym badges. Also, to catch at least 50 Pokemon or more for the Fuchsia City Gym. Okay, A, why should I need to show a water type or grass type? Doesn't that defeat the purpose of trial and error? The player at this point should know that certain types are weak and super effective against others. Well, if I lose because of this reason, then it's my fault. It's my job to naturally use different typings against Brock's Pokemon until I see desired results. Like, isn't that the point, to experiment? then why does the game, by all means, need to do all the thinking for the player? That is just unacceptable. B. The level requirements. Look, I understand it's important to guide the player in a certain direction of how their team should shape up at a certain point in the game, but it's just not realistic because it doesn't present much of a challenge because it's so easy to level up considering the whole team gets experience from battles and capturing Pokemon. And once again, I'm sorry if I sound like a broken record, but don't tell me I need to level up my team. Show me by letting me lose, thus I'll get the message to train harder. C. Requiring a cute Pokemon. Why? This has absolutely nothing to do with battle mechanics whatsoever. Also, including things that are also unnecessary that don't pertain to any battle mechanics whatsoever. Why do I need to have a certain amount of Pokemon in my Pokedex to verse Koga? Lastly, D. The requirements that rely on story elements. I mean, I guess it's not offensive, but it still seems lazy. Wow, just wow, look, I ranted way too much back there. My apologies, guys. My point, though, through all this was to show how much the game panders to the player. I mean, for veteran players, most of these things are easily completable, but at the same time, it seems like unnecessary busy work. This progression system is not able to strike the core balance between complexity and approachability. In this case, it's way too approachable, thus the complexity takes such a toll. Another great instance where change occurs for a long-running series is Super Mario Odyssey. For example, the game entirely removed 1-ups and the high score counter. These two elements were quite well associated with the plumber. Instead, to compensate that loss, developers opted for coins to work as a valuable currency. Coins beforehand were meaningless and only worked towards earning 1-ups and I guess that high score. Oh boy. I mean, no one really cares about getting the best high score. I mean, certain games do pertain to that, like I suppose Tetris, but that's not really how it works anymore. No, but seriously, coins are now able to buy Mario cool outfits and the game's collectibles, moons. In other words, the developers ditched one mechanic but replaced it with a worthwhile feature instead. Pokemon Let's Go, however, sacrifices a lot of mechanics, but either it has a difficult time replacing them or it doesn't do so whatsoever. I'm going to discuss a new catching mechanic to prove my point I'm going to make. This game decided to ditch the original old school way of capturing Pokemon. Overall, I don't mind this style whatsoever, I just feel like it was poorly executed. The transition from its original mobile counterpart was okay due to the game's touch controls. Instead of flicking on a touchscreen to throw your Pokeball, in Pokemon Let's Go, you need to use motion controls. These motion controls, however, just... oh boy, no, don't get me started. I'm sorry, but I'm gonna have to give this a hard time. Look, I understand motion controls can't work 100% of the time, that's almost impossible. Hell, most of the time perhaps, certain errors may have actually been my fault at hand. What I don't understand, however, is how is it possible to throw a Pokeball in a completely opposite direction in which I was gesturing? This occurs rather often in my case, not to the point where it becomes too distracting, but certainly noticeable at times. There actually is an alternate control scheme provided in which the player uses gyroscope features to aim where the Pokeball will be tossed. But hold up, there's a catch. Oh boy, oh god, I didn't even notice that pun at first, my apologies. The issue is, this method is only available in handheld mode on the Nintendo Switch. So if you want to use gyroscope features on your television, it's gonna be a no-go, too bad. I mean, I hope this would be the case, considering if you had to fling your Nintendo Switch every time you wanted to throw a Pokeball, that could be an issue. My complaint is, why only on this mode? It would have been easy to implement and would have allowed more options at hand. The developers overall needed to replace an element with something that could build upon old traditions, and unfortunately they weren't able to deliver on that matter. All in all, Pokemon is a series that has had stagnation throughout the years. I'm glad the game tried to take risks. The series certainly will benefit from the awesome new things it introduced. Like being able to ride and walk with your Pokemon in a fully 3D environment. A lot of these animations and effects seem to have a lot of time and care put into them. I mean, that also goes for no more random encounters. These features were desperately asked by fans and myself for many years. Yet, sadly, the game took one step forward and 2 steps backwards. And look, I'm not saying at all that these games are terrible. Quite frankly, they're awesome games. In fact, my friends and I only traded face-to-face because now completing the Pokédex was so much more achievable. We shared our experiences every time we met up. It was truly a magical first week. But that's the point. Look, hopefully Pokemon Let's Go, Eevee, and Pikachu can be a great stepping stone for the new games, Generation 8, that are coming out this year. Back to the original question at hand. Has Pokemon truly evolved yet as a series? The answer is, we need to find out soon. Hey guys, thank you so much for making it to the end of the video. I really hope you guys enjoyed it. It was fun for me, and I apologize for ranting so much. Look, you guys can find me on Twitch. I stream mostly every day. You guys can find my schedule on Twitch. I have all my other social media links in the description below. Thank you so much for watching, and have a great day.